native advertising, sponsored content, influencer marketing. This kind of stuff is everywhere now. In fact, odds are someone you're subscribed to here on YouTube has published a sponsored video. Or in other words, they've taken money to create an ad. Something makeup YouTubers, for example, are very honest about, while other YouTubers can be, I'd go so far as to say, deceptive. Maybe even making no mention whatsoever of the fact they were paid to make an ad until someone like me comes along and asks, "What are you doing, mate?" And a small disclosure magically appears. My point is, we've all seen this kind of thing. Maybe even without realizing, because standards of disclosure on YouTube are piss poor. But what you likely haven't seen is the kind of contract these people end up having to sign to get their cash. I think it's important that anyone using YouTube sees at least one example of a contract, because this kind of advertising is everywhere. The public should have some idea of what's going on. So, wanna take a peek at one? One product that I've talked about quite a bit is the social media website and app Candid. This thing is being very aggressively marketed on YouTube, racking up millions of views within multiple communities, I'd guess you'd call them, and giving away tons of hardware, expensive stuff. They're also paying tons and tons and tons of smaller channels to promote them. So this is a beautiful, fresh example of widespread influencer marketing, something I'm interested in because I'm worried about it just really rotting people's integrity. In a way you can't just resist while taking these deals. Essentially, right, if you work for a publication, there can be an ad side and an editorial side, and they can be kept separate. The people who have something to say can remain detached from the people who have something to sell as much as possible, and they're gonna clash. Oh, you can't say this because we want this advertiser. No, I have to say this, blah, 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 blah. If you're a YouTuber though, you're probably just one person, so you can't have an ad side and an editorial side, and that clash is going on inside your head. If you take this step and instead of just having AdSense on your content or whatever, and you start actually producing ads, you're sort of compromised in a very fundamental way. Your job is no longer to produce content or to report or to publish your opinion, or at least not solely that, because as far as I'm concerned, you've taken up a job as a marketer, and from then on, everything you say should be viewed with that consideration in mind. But it gets worse, because now I've seen an example of a contract for native advertising or influencer marketing. Thanks to a YouTuber who goes by the name Edgy Sphinx, I now have my hands on the contract and content guide that Candid sends to the people they want to make promotional videos. I also have permission to name him and share this info, and if you want to give this guy a thumbs up, I've linked to his stuff in the description. So, without further ado, let's dig in. Edgy was sent an extremely classy email with $500 for a sponsored video as the subject line, and a slightly creepy "P.S. I know if you open this email" smiley face line at the end. So here, for a channel with 22,000 subs, 10k-ish average views, we're looking at a $500 offer. And what do they want for that wad of cash? The most obvious part is making a video. And there is a separate document full of guidelines and rules. So let's look at a couple chunks of that as an appetizer. Video content Rule 1. In the beginning of the video, you should describe the Candid app in your own words. The features, what it is, what makes it different, why you love the app, etc. Please note, if you describe the app with terms like free speech, you need to highlight the fact that Candid uses artificial intelligence and human moderation to remove things like trolling and hate speech. I wonder if this is newly added since a certain set of videos. The app is about open discussion but doesn't allow abuse. Focus on anonymity, the ability to have great honest discussions, and the privacy of anonymity. Rule 2, introduce Candid and the groups you found interesting. Rule 3, you should pull between 4 to 8 posts from Candid and talk about it. Voice your own opinion. Wow, gee, what wonderful permission and freedom. You must show screenshots of Candid so people are familiar with it. Red underline. Rule 4, create and encourage your viewers to join your fan group. Rule 5, verbally say in the video to join your group and the name of your group. Do not create a group after a topic. name it after yourself or your channel. That's very important to them, and it's obvious why, because then they've got your brand. They've got the official you group on their app forever, presumably. Really make that association between your brand and their brand much, much stronger. In part so that the people who trust you will trust them. That's the idea with influencer marketing. You're selling your audience's trust. Even if you're telling the truth and you're entirely honest, they're paying for trust. That's why, if you're going to go down this path, you gotta be real careful and transparent. We'll get back to transparency shortly. But for now, what else is there about the video itself? Well, they tell you how you should do your description. They say, the description needs to be on the very top. You can post your usual description after the candid description. An example that you can adapt into your own words, but not really fundamentally change, I presume, is, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Download Candid on iOS and Android. Join my group. Candid is an anonymous app. Blah, blah, blah. BeCandid.com. Now, what isn't there? Disclosure. And their description must go at the top. They have effectively instructed the people they are sponsoring to not disclose at the top of their description. That's kind of fucked, in my opinion. And you know that example I showed you earlier of David Pakman? When he added his disclosure, he added it after their description. He's a good boy. He does what he's told. Okay, so all that's pretty shitty. But what's in the contract? What is there beyond just making this video? Most of it's, yeah, whatever. But a couple things really stand out to me. And some other things are just nice to know. For example, good on them. They demand that the people making videos include a mention of it being sponsored. Unfortunately, if you look at a few of these ads, you'll see that that doesn't always happen. And it seems likely Candid are fully aware and just don't give a shit. They only include that in their contract because they gotta. At the beginning of the agreement, in the payment section it says 50% upfront and then 50% after the video's been approved and uploaded. So if someone hasn't disclosed or they've said something that's wrong, Candid know. They've given it the thumbs up and given them the other half of their money. Fuck it, right? The ad still points people to Candid. And now, finally, onto what I think will be the juiciest bit for the people who watch my videos. What people who sign this contract agree not to do. Non-disparagement. For the term of this agreement and 2 years after its termination, producer will not disparage my likes or Candid, or otherwise take any action which could reasonably be expected to adversely affect my likes' reputation or public perception. Producer will not disparage my likes, Candid, or any of my likes or Candid's directors, officers, agents or executives, or otherwise take any action which could reasonably be expected to adversely affect the personal or professional reputation of the service or any of its directors, officers, agents, or employees. God damn, that's broad! I'd be scared to fucking speak if I signed this. I'd also be pretty embarrassed, as someone who says I value free speech. That's not the only gag though. You're not allowed to do any of that or say anything like that, but you're also not allowed to say that you're not allowed to do or say any of that. Confidentiality. Producer agrees to hold confidential information in confidence. Confidential information shall include all material, non-public information, written or oral, disclosed or made available through any means of communication in the course of business. The terms of this agreement shall be considered a trade secret. Not really though, buds, is it? You haven't taken any reasonable measure to protect it. You handed this agreement over to a dude without properly vetting him. It should have been really obvious this was going to happen if you sent it to Edgy Sphinx, who, by the way, I'll say thank you again to. Carrying on. Producer acknowledges that this information has independent economic value that is not generally known to the public or to others who could obtain economic value from its disclosure or use, and that this information is subject to a reasonable effort by Candid to maintain its secrecy and confidentiality. Not really, dudes. Like I just said, not really. You guys just fucking suck at keeping secrets. Except as essential to producer's obligations under this agreement or applicable laws, producer shall not make any disclosure of this agreement, the terms of this agreement, or any confidential information. God, why not just ask them to fit an iron clamp to their mouth? Alright guys, there is more, but you should be able to look for yourself by now. This example, I think, is just really good for the public to see, to get some idea of what goes on behind the scenes in an ad deal. But on top of that, depending on the channel, this could be a massive betrayal of trust, or create the appearance of one, because even if their contract doesn't include some of this stuff, it probably includes the thing that says they can't tell you what things are in the contract, so you'll never know. If it's some goof-off channel promoting stuff, you probably don't care. If it were a product like they're trying to sell you potato chips, you probably wouldn't care, but this is a social media network. If you're concerned about censorship or speech in any way, fuck me! Do not endorse a communication platform that creates all sorts of problems for covering that and also any other communication platform, because you're going to be extremely biased because one of them has paid you. And even if somehow you are not, there is a huge appearance of impropriety. On top of that, anyone who says they're for open speech and free expression, who signs this shit, is a fraud in my eyes. And anyone who makes a living on YouTube attacking things, insulting things, writing polemics, and then signs a thing that says no polemics against Candid is disgusting. That's like some sort of protection racket. Oh, nice thing you got there. Be a shame if I made fun of it. You know, you could pay me to advertise. Ugh. I tried to make this video as general as possible, to apply to advertising in general, but it really is another Candid video, and I hope to God it is the last one I have to do. See you next time, folks.